All right. So we'll call to order and get a declaration of a quorum.
Okay. Matthews. Madsen.
Here.
O'Neill.
Here.
Stevens.
Here.
Bickner.
Here.
Seymour.
Here.
Richter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd ask Bill Ruth if he'd give the invocation, please. Everybody please rise.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thanks for seeing us all here safely this evening. Give our city commissioners the wisdom, courage, and will to do those things which will benefit our community, and to give us the best opportunity for prosperity and help them to defeat counterproductive issues which we all face. We love you, Father, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Join me in the flag salute. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And we'll start with our citizens' participation. Citizens may provide comment relevant to city business per Oklahoma statute, State Statute 25 OS 311B1. The City Commission may only consider, deliberate, or render decisions on those items of city business that were included in the agenda. For other citizen comments, the City Commission may refer the matter to the City Manager for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for Commission consideration at a later date. And first up, we have Mr. Rob Morris. Good evening, Rob.
Good evening. Tonight, just a couple things. I told you everybody that the PFDs were due. You've even had a little extra time for some. I want to say thank you to those that turned them in. Ward 1, yes. Ward 2, yes. Ward 3, yes. The mayor, yes. Ward 4, no. Ward 5, no. Ward 6, yes. I've read off for Ward 5. Excuse me, I've read off Ward 5 before. For Ward 4, I believe it's going to be 2300 Toon Avenue and Gordon Cooper Technology Center. Don't know about your stocks or anything. Next, last month y'all told us that the Parks Master Plan was done, the 2018. Yet Optimus Park, which is not done, is named as one of those. So how's a plan done when actually 3 of the 6 parks are not done? And then we took and miraculously came up with $180,000 to match Avitas's $180,000. So where did we just find money that apparently we never have? And the last thing tonight, I hope everybody looks at the executive session for PFAS. PFAS stands for, I want to make sure I get this right, polyfluoroalkyl substances. They're known as forever chemicals. They pretty much don't go away. And since we're in a settlement about forever chemicals, that would lead any reasonable person to believe that somehow either those chemicals are in our food, our water, or in our soil, all of which have different ramifications. If it's in the soil, good luck to the farmers. You ain't going to be able to do anything with it, and the EPA can shut you down. If it's in our water or in our food, all right, how high is it in us now? There's not conclusive studies on a lot of medical things with it yet because we just kind of learned about this, but it doesn't look like it's going to be good on the health of people. So if we could maybe next month update everybody out here, myself included, on what this means, what this settlement means. You don't have to talk about what you're going to do in court. You don't have to talk about any actual legal things other than, hey, we did find that there are PFAS chemicals in Shawnee. Here's what they are. We're going through a settlement to do it. But so far, nothing's been said. And I know that you guys have to sign non-disclosure agreements. I hope that tonight y'all don't. I really do. You don't have to. Because it's your job that if something's wrong, you're supposed to come tell the rest of us what's wrong. Otherwise, we never know. And if you sign a non-disclosure agreement, you're not allowed to talk. It's a little weird that you're elected and you're not allowed to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Next up, we have Ms. Teresa Cody. Hello, Teresa.
I'd just like to speak to you tonight about a little bit about what I've learned about 880 cities. This really very concerning to me, and so I'm just going to read through this real quick. some of my thoughts, because everything I'm talking about is connected to 880 cities and what is going on in our community. And I'm not going to do the same speech I did for the county. I'm here to ask for a process to find a real community unity. I'm here asking to begin a process of conversation to help our own community begin to empower themselves and everyone's voices to be heard. How do we show them the path to nonpartisanship? Bipartisanship is what has got us here. What we do in Shawnee should never be about parties. The city and the county meetings should be about the people in the community. It should be our voice. I realized this morning that what AARP has done to our communities. By using their crafty words and claiming bipartisanship, and at the same time, we allow them to wag the dog. They have pulled us back and forth by holding our feet to the fire of federal political policies. The politics the nonprofits want, not what the people want and Shawnee America wants. They have stolen our voices in the name of senior citizen membership list. The senior citizens have no clue they have done this. Most recently, AARP has begun a new target list. That would be the 18-year-old voting community by using a new strategy of social engineering. They're including them in the membership, offering them discounts and pulling them into a continual political dog wagging. I refuse to live in a blue zone or a green zone. My hair does not define me, neither does it define the place I want to live. I want to live in a place where federal government doesn't push my friends down or the community in Ward 3. I want to exercise my voice tonight. This is a call to action for my community. I'm asking the commission to hear us. I'm asking everyone who lives here to use your voice. This is the only way for the community to stop the dog wagging. Let's tell other cities, other states, and the federal elected officials what we want, not what a nonprofit or the federal government wants for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Next up, we have John Bob Semple.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is John Bob Semple. I serve as Executive Director of Potawatomi Go. About a year ago, we were before you to share about the Community Health Needs Assessment. The Community Health Needs Assessment is a federal requirement of nonprofit hospitals in our particular community, SSM Health. It's also a tool of public health in the case of Pot County Health Department. This is used by our nonprofits to help measure some of the challenges that we have. This is a tool that's used by our tribal health-related organizations that serve each of their members. Our particular community came together with about 9 different organizations to execute our own Pot County Community Health Needs Assessment. For the first time, we had 9 different organizations working to improve a measurement tool that we could all utilize. Alongside 60 different distribution partners, which include folks who just said, Diane told me to take this. We got a lot of folks who took the survey. As a matter of fact, a record number, 3,176 across Potawatomi County. That total, that information, that data belongs to the individuals who completed the survey. At Potawatomi Go, we're committed to closing the loop and letting people know what they said and letting people know what we intend to do with that information. It's available at gopogo.org/CHNA. To any of the commissioners who would want to see that report, please take that step to download it. Over the coming months, we'll be creating simplified versions so that folks of every literacy rate can learn exactly what they said and what we are doing with that information. Finally, for every church, every neighbor, every person that completed this survey, thank you. This is your information, and in Pot County, we hope to do our very best to make sure everybody sees what we learned and what we can do together about this information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Next up, we have Ms. Cindy Berger.
Wrote it down, so hopefully I'll be quick enough. So the mayoral election this year showed us that an overwhelming majority of Shawnee citizens wanted to change when Mayor Stevens won with getting over 60% of the votes. This means the majority of citizens were not happy with the direction the city was going or the projects being focused on. With that said, it's important to note that our current city manager was recommended by the previous mayor, and together they worked to design and implement these visions that no longer align with our community. Obviously, a city can't just halt operations because a new mayor is in town, but there are ways for a city leadership to show the citizens that you heard us. The past few years have had quite a bit of controversy in certain projects, one in particular with the depot restoration. With it, there have been disagreements over project priorities, changes in costs, and even legal disputes involving the Pottawatomie County Historical Society. To help show the community that our leadership is committed to shifting in the direction that the people voted for, I think it's important to back that commitment up with an action. It's not part of the depot, but the Beard Cabin has seemed to have been neglected for some time. The Beard Cabin is the first house ever built in Shawnee, which makes it an important piece of Shawnee history. I asked what it would cost to restore the Beard Cabin and was informed it could be as high as $200,000 to have it completely dismantled and rebuilt. At the last commission meeting, I saw the presentation on the update of the 2018 half-cent sales tax, and from what I understood, it looked like it exceeded original estimates by over $2 million in the first 5 years and is expected to increase. Since it doesn't appear that this additional revenue has yet been designated, I would ask the city and commission and city manager to consider allocating part of that funding to restore the Beard Cabin and place a canopy over it to prevent any additional damage. Last month, the commission approved a grant of $191,000 matched by the city of Shawnee to rebuild and restore the splash pads, which I'm actually excited about. I've wanted to see those since I've moved here. But that cost is similar to what it would take to restore the Beard Cabin. It seems like a small investment into turning the page to show the community that the city is committed to its citizens. That's the leadership Shawnee voted for. And if funding is an issue, maybe we can call on our community partners for grant opportunities. We do have a few bank presidents and CEOs on the board of the Shawnee Forward, including Bank First, which is actually the successor of Federal National Bank and Trust, the first bank in Shawnee. So there could be, I don't know, it might be a unique opportunity to have the first bank in Shawnee help restore the first house in Shawnee. In any case, our community deserves to have a city manager that's committed to working on projects the citizens wanted and voted for. If our current city manager is unable or unwilling to shift that focus to issues that are important to the people, then I would urge you all to consider a change in that leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. So on to item 2. Consider approval of consent agenda. And Commissioner
Yep.
O'Neill
I,
has a correction to make.
I motion to approve with a correcting of item 2A to correct the vice mayor to Daniel Matthews.
Okay. Make a motion?
Yep. So we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. A motion and a second. So now we'll call the question. And it passes 6-0. So we'll get that corrected. Now we will take a motion and a second on item number 2, consider approval of the consent agenda. I'll make,
That's what we did.
sorry?
Commissioner O'Neill, was your motion on the entire consent with the correction?
With the correction,
With
yes,
the
that's
correction?
correct.
Okay.
My apologies.
Yep. All right, that takes care of number 2 then. So that includes the complete consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. And item number 3, presentation of pet of the month by animal control. There she comes.
Looks like a Benji.
So we have Wolfie with us tonight.
All right.
She's an Airedale Terrier mix. She's about 10 months old. Very friendly with everybody, loves everybody. Gets along with all the dogs. Loves Rob. I think you should take him home.
They both have beards.
Her adoption fee would be $10. That includes her spay and a current rabies shot.
Okay.
She's precious.
She's a cutie.
I love her hair.
She wants to go home with you.
I can identify with her hair.
We found a new mama.
She's just making the rounds. She's making the rounds. Oh, she's precious. Sweet girl. She has spent all night here getting. Is she fully grown?
She might grow a little bit more,
That's what I
but
was
not
thinking.
much.
Okay. She's like every single person.
Take her home, Denise.
Oh, she's $10.
$10, you can stay here all night if you go home.
I'm afraid mine would be upset when I got home, when I smell like another dog.
She has a job.
Yes.
She is committed to that job. Sweet girl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to item number 4, the mayor's proclamation of Small Business Saturday and Shop Shawnee Day, November 30th, 2024. Present this to Lisa Gilcrease from Shawnee for it. Hi, Lisa. Read this off here. It was long. Okay. Small Business Saturday and Shop Shawnee Day. Whereas the government of the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, in July of 2024, there are 34.7 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 43.5% of the gross domestic product. Small businesses create 61.1% of the net new jobs since 1995. And small businesses employ 45.9% of private sector employees in the United States. And whereas dollars spent at small businesses in the United States stay in their local communities, and every dollar spent at a small business creates an additional investment in local business activity as a result of employees and local goods and services. And whereas locally owned businesses build strong neighborhoods by sustaining communities and contributing to local causes during times of prosperity and hardship. And whereas in 2022, 72% of consumers reported that Small Business Saturday made them want to shop and dine at small independently owned retailers and restaurants all year long. And in 2023, consumers spent an estimated $17 billion on Small Business Saturday. And whereas the City of Shawnee collaborates with Shawnee Ford and other organizations to support our local businesses, which create jobs, boost our economy, and enrich our city. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, and the City of Shawnee would like to encourage our citizens to shop Shawnee on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year in celebration of our local business owners and entrepreneurs. Now therefore, I, Eric Stevens, Mayor of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim this 30th day of November 2024 to be Small Business Saturday and Shop Shawnee Day, and urge the residents of our community to support small businesses and merchants on Shop Shawnee Day and throughout the year. As a small business owner myself, I say this time and time again, we are the backbone of this country. Absolutely. With that, I'd like to present this to you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. On to item 5. Consideration of a resolution of the Mayor and City Commission of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, that establishes and provides compensation of the city manager pursuant to Article 5, Section 3 of the city charter. Joe, you're up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'll be very brief, and you kind of stole my thunder. Article 5, Section 3 of the city charter requires that all compensation of the city manager be set by resolution of the full Board of Commissioners. If you will recall, and I'm sure you will, although it was rather late, last month, a resolution was made coming out of executive session to approve a step basis increase, for the city manager. And so we've simply crafted a resolution to comply with the charter requirement, and that's what's before you this evening. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think we all pretty well remember it.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
We got a motion from Mark and a second from Chris. We call on Joe back again to read the resolution, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution of the Mayor and City Commission of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, that establishes and provides compensation of the city manager pursuant to Article 5, Section 3 of the city charter.
And now we shall vote. Motion carries 6-0. On to item number 6, consideration of a resolution declaring certain items surplus and no longer needed for city purposes, describing said items, and authorizing disposal of said items at the city's discretion. And we'll call on Ms. Andrea. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Over the course of several years, our city has acquired Christmas decorations for the use in public spaces. Also, over the course of many years, that Christmas decoration has deteriorated, and we now are left with several pieces that are no longer properly functioning. City staff is requesting that these be surplused. Somebody else may be able to fix those. At this point in time, it is not feasible to do so on the city's part. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So these are like a bunch of the old snowflakes and stuff and ancient old Christmas decoration things?
Those are actually not the old snowflakes, but those are other items.
Okay.
There are about 7 consisting out of multiple components, and they are not in
Not good
dire
working order.
straight condition, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Can we get a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second. Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution declaring certain items of personal property surplus and no longer needed for city purposes, describing said items and authorizing the sale or disposal at the city's discretion.
And we will now vote on the question. Motion carries 6-0. On to number 7. Consideration of an ordinance regarding an update on the OKMRF, Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund, DB Master Plan and Joinder Agreement. And again, Ms. City Manager's up, please.
For the city's full-time, non-union city employees, the city offers 2 different types of pension plans. One is a defined contribution and the other one is a defined benefit. The Internal Revenue Service requires that retirement plans are revisited and submitted every 6 years. The Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund has done so at their most recent board meeting. It is now up to the city to re-adopt the master plan and the joinder agreement in order to be able to eligible to participate in that pension plan. Most recently in 2022, the city staff came to you about the defined contribution plan. It was up for renewal at that time. This time it is the defined benefit plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll go back to Joe. Oh, we have to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mark, second by Ashley. Now we get to go, Joe.
All right. I think this one's a long one. An ordinance amending the employee retirement system defined benefit plan for the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma by adopting a revised and restated retirement plan, providing retirement benefits for eligible employees of the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma, providing for purpose and organization, providing for definitions, providing for eligibility and participation, providing for non-alienation of benefits, providing for employer and employee contributions, providing for accounting, allocation, and valuation, providing benefits, providing for required notice, providing for amendments and termination, providing for transfer to and from other plans, creating a retirement committee and providing for powers, duties, and rights of the retirement committee, providing for payment of certain obligations, providing for duration and payment of expenses, providing for effective date, providing for vesting schedules, providing for a fund to finance the system to be pooled with other incorporated cities, towns, and their agencies and instrumentalities for the purpose of administration, management, and investment as part of the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund, providing for payment of all contributions under the system to the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund for management and investment, providing for repealer and severability, and adopting those amendments mandated by the Internal Revenue Code.
Thank you. And now we will vote on the item. Motion carries 6-0. On item number 8, consideration of an ordinance of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, amending Section 22-184A and Section 22-208 E3A of the Shawnee Municipal Code, providing for repealer, codification, and severability. And Mr. Ryan Harkins, Community Development.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. As you adopted the new Unified Development Code, our online content publisher, Municode, as they began to upload this new document into our website, noticed a couple of errors, typographical or what would be considered extra verbiage. However, because the code has already been adopted, the only way to amend or change that is to do an ordinance to amend the code, which is this housekeeping item before you this evening. There are essentially two areas, both pertain to the R1 district, that this ordinance applies to. Staff has reviewed it. We feel like this clarifies the intent of the district and addresses the errors, and with that, we recommend approval. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
This is basically just little wording errors.
Those little wording errors, taking out a couple of extra words that didn't get deleted before that we missed as the final edits were done.
Okay. Any other questions? Can we get a motion?
A motion approved. I'll second that.
Mark and Chris. And Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, amending Section 22-184A and Section 22-208E3A of Chapter 22, Planning and Development, and also providing for repealer, codification, and severability.
And now we will vote on the question. Motion carries 6-0. On item number 9, consideration of a resolution updating the city fee schedule by amending portions of Chapter 22, Planning and Development, Article 10 of the Shawnee Municipal Code, and providing for the readoption of the city fee schedule in whole. Ryan's up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if you remember last month, we brought an admin report to you updating essentially a comparison of our fees, where they were at currently, and a comparison to other communities around the state, some larger, some smaller, some in metro, some outside of metro areas. Tonight, what we bring to you is a proposed resolution to update those fees and readopt the fee schedule as a whole. You'll notice that the items that we presented last month are pretty much verbatim carried over without really any major changes that we've brought to you. So what we brought to you last month is what is proposed tonight. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All good? You can get a motion.
I'll second.
Greta and Chris. And we'll call on Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution updating the city fee schedule by amending portions of Chapter 22, Planning and Development of the Shawnee Municipal Code and providing for the readoption of the city fee schedule in whole.
And now we'll vote on the question. And that motion carries 6-0. Item number 10. Public hearing of a request to rezone property located at 3918 North Kickapoo Avenue from R1 Low Density Residential District to C2 Regional Commercial District. Case number RZ05-24, applicant Erica Jones. Ryan's up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a rezoning request for consideration to rezone from R1 to C2. As the staff report notes, it's a property on Kickapoo directly. Because the Planning Commission, however, was not able to meet this month, staff's recommendation is to defer this item to the December 16th, 2024 City Commission meeting. That way, Planning Commission has adequate time to review as well and provide a recommendation.
So we make a motion to defer
Yes, to the December 16th.
to the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So do we have to get a first motion and a second?
Yes.
Motion.
Okay.
Motion to defer to the December 16th meeting?
Yes.
To the December 16th meeting, sorry.
Okay.
Second.
Red and Ashley? Okay, so that item carries 6-0, so it's deferred until December 16th, next meeting. Correct? Okay. On to item number 11. Public hearing of a request to rezone from R1 Low Density Residential District to C2 Regional Commercial District. Property located at approximately 2025 East MacArthur. Case number RZ04-24, applicant Ruben Peltier Properties, Nick Atwood, attorney. This is deferred from the October 21st, 2024 City Commission meeting. Ryan, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As noted, this item is being brought to you again from a deferral of last month. It is a request to rezone approximately 1 acre out of a 4-acre parcel from R1 to C2, so from low-density residential to a regional commercial setting. This is approximately what would be 2-3 doors down from the intersection of Bryan and MacArthur. So if you know that intersection, there is Grove School on the northwest corner. There's a church just off the intersection. There's a spot, C1 zoning right on the southeast corner, then the church to the east, and then the subject property just east of that. Properties around it are TA, transitional ag, as well as C2 to the north. The land use designation on the future land use map, which is included in your packet, is a large lot residential, which lends more toward an R1 or a TA type setting. Planning Commission, when they reviewed this item, took considerable public testimony. Their recommendation to you was a recommendation of denial based on the future land use plan and the impact of potential commercial property on the transportation system in the area. Having said that, that is in line with staff's recommendation as well. I know the attorney for the applicant is here tonight if you have questions of him. We did receive a protest petition. When we reviewed that, we found it to be valid. It is a petition of surrounding property owners within 300 feet. Because of that petition being ruled valid, it would need a four-fifths majority of the city commission in order to approve the rezoning request. Having said that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All good? Okay, so now we'll open for public hearing
Yes.
and ask if anyone is here to speak for the request.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Nick Atwood, and I represent the applicant in this matter. My client appreciates your consideration of their application. ultimately, my client hopes that you guys will approve their application so they can build a new Dollar General store and bring a new business to our community. I know there's been considerable concern about this, and we've tried our best to answer those questions and do our best to appease those concerns. Anyway, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them, and we hope you approve my client's proposal.
Okay. Questions on either side? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Now, is anybody here to speak against the request?
Rob Morris, 1307 Windsor Place. I live right down the road from this. I guarantee you I'm not even the only one, considering the commission itself, that doesn't want this. A restaurant, maybe. Storage facility, maybe. Dollar General, I don't want the trouble that comes with a Dollar General. You can go run Highland and see what they have to deal with every day. Grove School and all those kids, nah, bad idea. And I'm not just picking on people here. Mr. Peltier that owns the land, he's a friend of mine. I just think Dollar General is a bad idea for the plot. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ruth?
Bill Ruth, and I have to agree with what Rob said there. We've already got some of these Dollar General stores here in the area, and to be honest with you, it's just not one of the better places to go. They seem to have a lot of problems once you get them placed in there. The way they're operated is not of the best quality. I mean, you go to buy something and you go to check out, well, it's a different price than what it was in there. So their business is rather shady at best. So I hope that you will not support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Discussion among us, if any.
I make a recommendation to deny this request.
Okay.
I'll second. Wait, hold on. It's still a public hearing.
Yes.
Public, we'll get, that's the next item. That's all right.
Jump the gun.
It's okay. So with that, we'll move on to item number 12. Consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located at approximately 2025 East MacArthur from R1 Low-Density Residential District to C2 Regional Commercial District. Case number RZ04-24, applicant Reuben Peltier Properties, Nick Atwood, attorney. Does Ryan need to come back up? Okay. No more discussion amongst us, so can we get a motion?
Can I make a motion then?
Okay. I'll second. Mark will second. And Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance concerning the zoning classification of the property located within the corporate limits of the city of Shawnee, Potawatomi County, Oklahoma, and more fully described herein, from zoning classification R1, Low-Density Residential District, to C2, Regional Commercial District, amending the official zoning map of the city of Shawnee accordingly.
Okay. And now we'll vote on the question.
May I ask for clarification?
No
The motion
means-
was to deny
Correct.
the request, so the ordinance would not be adopted, correct?
Correct.
So a yes vote
A yes
denies
to
it?
deny.
Okay.
Yes is to deny, correct?
Yes.
And no is to, okay. Okay, that passes 6-0, so the motion denied. And on to item number 13, consideration of the following budget amendments for fiscal year 2024, 2025. Let's see, do I read all these? Okay. Good.
Please don't.
And we'll call Ms. Kimberly Smith. Dodge bullet.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. On the budget amendments, items 13A and 13B are amendments to approve funds to pay expenses for the Local Emergency Planning Committee, the LEPC, to open a new bank account. Items 13C is to appropriate the fund balance for prior year donations for the police department. Items 13D is to appropriate the funds to increase in under-budgeted fuel expense lines. Item 13E is to appropriate the grant funds received from Best Friends Animal Society for use at the animal shelter. $188,448.97 is the total for the 5 budget amendments. The First Amendment is to appropriate the funds for the LAPC to cover expenses to open a new 501c3 bank account in the amount of $1,151. Every year, they do receive $1,000 from the state, and that's part of that money that they're using. The second budget amendment is to appropriate the fund balance for the LAPC to fund their new 501c3 bank account in the amount of $3,997.98. So they're taking their fund balance and putting it over into the new bank account. The third budget amendment is to appropriate the donations received by the police department in prior years to use for fiscal year 24 and 25 for the purpose of the animal and special training in the amount of $3,299.98. The fourth is to appropriate funds from the general fund interfund transfer for under budgeted expense lines for the low lead 100 octane fuel and Jet A fuel, and placing the balance in the capital outlay for future expenses in the amount of $180,000. The fifth budget amendment is to appropriate grant funds received from Best Friends Animal Society for expenses for the animal shelter in the amount of $1,000. Do you have any questions?
No questions up here? Okay. Thank you, Kimberly. And we get a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mark?
I'll second.
Greta seconds. And then we will vote on the question. Item 13 carries 6-0. Item 14, acknowledge monthly sales tax and budget reports. Kimberly, back up.
Okay. The sales tax for November totaled $2,409,196.70, which includes $4,085.52 in interest. This revenue is distributed across 8 funds. The receipts in the November are for the estimated October sales and final sales figures in September. November 2024 collections are a 7.56 decrease over November of last year. When comparing collections to the conservative budget projections for November, we are 3.51% below projections for the month and 1.17 above collections year to date. Use tax for November totaled $411,343, which is 4.15% increase projected collections for the month. When you combine the use tax and the general fund portions of the sales tax, the general fund is currently $17,665 below budget projections. On the second to last page of the report is the sales tax collection comparison chart by month for the 12 months. This comparison includes Shawnee's peer cities of Yukon, Ardmore, Muskogee, Bartsville, Stillwater, and Eden. These cities were selected with 3 factors in mind: population, city tax rate revenue, and revenue per 1% sales tax. Most of the cities saw a decrease in sales tax from October to November, including Shawnee, which showed a decrease in sales tax of 11.38%. On the last page of the report is the graph that shows the year-over-year sales tax growth by month. It also captures the South Region Consumer Price Index change for Shawnee sales tax receipts over the last 12 months. 4 out of the last 5 months have seen a downward trend when you look at year over year by month. Do you have any questions?
I think we're good. Thank you, Kimberly. On item 15, new business, any matter not known or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the posting of the agenda.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner comments.
Can we start?
Yes, please.
So I just texted my husband and said I'm obsessed with the pet of the month. So he may be serving me with divorce papers if I bring home that dog. I love that dog. It's so cute. Anyway, so it's just been an interesting month, and I think we are making progress on a lot of things, and I think that it's just, I keep asking the constituents this, just give us time on a lot of different things. So it is a lot of information to digest. It's a lot of people to talk to as far as involved players and different things. So, and then of course balancing work life and personal life as well. And so I do think it's just going to take some time, but it's interesting. This is an interesting role. so.
My turn?
Sure.
Thank you for the sales tax report. I think that the proclamation for November 30th, shop local, I think that needs to be,
Yeah.
I mean, I try to think of that every day. To make the decision to spend local, that's how we fund this city. It's so important. And I want to thank our 4 citizens and their comments today, and it seemed like everybody here wants to see our city improve. And, you know, I think we all want the same thing. Our path how we get there may be different, but I mean, if we can see the prize at the end of the road, you know. And thank everybody for their comments, and keep them coming, so.
Absolutely.
Don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Kind of the same sentiment, you know, a little concerned about the sales tax. You know, I think it just reinforces how we need to shop here and to dine here, because it's very important to our bottom line. Other than that, that's about all I've got.
I've got nothing new to add.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of shop local, small business. I know it's tempting to go to Oklahoma City or Tulsa, find the big box stores, buy stuff online. I do everything in my power to help our small business owners here locally. If it costs me 20% more, I'm willing to spend it. And I would encourage everybody to do the same. Also, last week was Veterans Day, and I would like to personally thank all the veterans that are here or watching. I unfortunately didn't get to make the Veterans function at the park on Monday due to a family emergency, but which involved a veteran. But I just want to personally thank all of our veterans, and might not be here without that. So, and with that takes care of that item. So, going to recess City Commission meeting by the power of the chair to convene the Shawnee Airport Authority and Shawnee Municipal Authority. Yes. Okay. So we got to bounce out of there, don't we? This one? You sure?
Nope.
I'm stuck.
Oh, maybe just go click on the agenda on the left-hand side. And then agendas.
Okay.
Leave me.
I gotta leave first.
Isn't it all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Join.
And present.
Thank you. Am I logged in? Okay. All right. So we have to call to order? Or- Okay, we can, declaration of quorum. We don't take roll? Okay. Item number 1, consider approval of consent agenda.
I motion to approve consent agenda.
Okay. I'll second. Vote on the item. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 2, presentation by Grayson Arties, Executive Director of the Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics on the proposed capital improvement plan, CIP, for the Shawnee Regional Airport fiscal years 2025 through 2031. Floor is all yours, Grayson. Oh, I skipped something. I was supposed to have Bonnie introduce Grayson? Okay.
I'd be happy to do so. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Executive Director Grayson Ardiz of the Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics. He is here to present a proposed capital improvement program for the next 6 years based on the collaboration that the City of Shawnee has with ODAA. And with that, no further ado, and I'll turn it over to Grayson.
Thank you.
I'm going to go old school and go with some paper today. So I'm going to take one for myself, and which direction do you want me to pass it around? This direction? All right. I got several coming. So
I printed my own off at home, so it's just easier to see on paper. This beats my small one.
while Joe is passing out the documents, the two main things that we'll be looking at today are the large sheet of paper as well as the sheet of paper with a bunch of rows and columns on it. We'll get to the other three documents at some point. They're a little more detailed in drawing, but wanted to start with the 6-year CIP. Since the council has provided the department with essentially agent authority to develop a draft CIP to then present to you and the Airport Advisory Board, wanted to come before you tonight to talk about this just on an informational basis before, I think, coming back to a future council meeting and potentially seeking action. Wanted to have two informational sessions, thank you, Joe, to talk about the potential projects for the next 6 years, which we believe will, one, lead the airport into a good development future for growth and prosperity, but also rebuild the airport from the tornado damage that it has seen over the last year. And so you'll see some things on here that are rebuilding. You'll see some things on here that are new development. I want to set the stage first and foremost with aviation aerospace being our state's second largest industry, $44 billion a year of annual economic activity, bookended between two of Oklahoma's historic industries, obviously the number one being oil and gas and energy, and the number three being agriculture. The reason why we're so pro-aviation aerospace in our state is what we think this industry can do overall for the economy of Oklahoma. It's not based on a commodity, nothing against oil and gas or agriculture, both very great industries, tied with tradition and steeped in tradition for our state, but aviation aerospace, we believe, is what is going to bring about success for the overall economy of the state of Oklahoma. Because it is based in manufacturing, it is based in a business that's called MRO, or maintenance, repair, and overhaul. That segment of the industry is fairly stable in aerospace. It's not a roller coaster ride like you might see in Wichita or in Seattle with the new manufacturing of aircraft. We are very steeped in the maintenance and the keeping airplanes flying business for Oklahoma. So at the end of the day, Shawnee Regional Airport plays an extremely important role for the Oklahoma airport system. We have 108 airports across the state of Oklahoma, 4 commercial, 104 general aviation or municipal airports as you have here in Shawnee. Unfortunately, you're positioned perfectly within the Oklahoma City metro area. The major airports of the Oklahoma City area being Will Rogers, Wiley Post, and Norman Westheimer in kind of the core area. Those airports are very busy. They are full. And so if you look over the last 20 years where the history of aviation has gone for the Oklahoma City metro area, and Tulsa's experiencing this by and large the same way too, it's growing north, south, east, and west. So that's moving into the Guthrie Edmonds of the world. That's moving down to Purcell and Pauls Valley. That's moving west to El Reno and the other airport owned by Oklahoma City that's GA called Clarence E. Page Airport. And it's moving east here towards Shawnee and to Seminole. And so as these airports, which are kind of the metro area adjacent airports, are benefiting from some of the growth of the Oklahoma City area. And so with that, we've had a project going with you all for drainage, and one of the things that's been attached to that drainage project is a planning study, and kind of laying out the development options for the airport as a whole, preparing you guys for the next half century of hangar and aviation business growth. And so I know that's been presented to you, was it last meeting or was it a couple meetings ago? The planning study. I think it was a couple meetings ago. Last meeting, okay. Last meeting, the planning study was presented to you all. And so what you see here is some of the first elements of implementing that planning study from a funding standpoint. We at the state have several different grant programs available for both traditional infrastructure, like runway and pavement, rehabilitation, electrical rehabilitation, drainage improvements, which we received or provided a grant to the city for just a couple of years back to improve your drainage at the airport. But we also have programs for pro-growth infrastructure, and that pro-growth infrastructure is vertical infrastructure, things like your terminal building, your hangars, your fuel systems, things that are enabling growth, taxi lanes, utilities, things that are going to enable more development to occur at your airport. And so what you see here today is a combination of both currently programmed dollars, dollars that we're going to program, dollars the legislature has provided specifically for the Shawnee Airport, as well as some future desires to request funding for some of the more critical projects at the airport. And so we're just going to kick it off. In 2025, we've got 4 separate projects that you see there. Those are called ODOs, or Overall Development Objectives. And each ODO may actually have intricate parts to that particular project. But as you can see there, the first one is rehabilitate the taxi lane. That's design and construction. You'll see some of these that are broken out between design one year, construct the next. Sometimes design takes a little longer, and so you want to have a split design and construction. Some of these are going to take shorter, and we might want to go faster. And that's when you're going to combine design and construction together. The first one is to rehabilitate the existing taxi lane. As you can see there, ODO 1 on the map, that's the northwest southeast taxi lane. As you can see, that's the existing taxi lane that's out there right now. This is going to be a crack seal and seal coat to repair that taxi lane, which serves a majority of the hangar tenants out at the airport today and into the future. So we're going to rehabilitate that, and that's also going to be design and construct. So that's not just the engineering elements, that's also going to be the construction elements. That's going to be funded 95.5 with federal grant funds as anticipated through the AIG or BIL program, as you might have heard commonly in the aviation world. The ODO 2 item is for your new taxi lane development around a new set of T-hangers. So this is getting into the rebuild situation. So ODO 1 was just, it's a good course of business. We need to do that for overall pavement health and preserving that pavement before we get to a mode of reconstructing at some point in time in the future. ODO 2 and ODO 3 are about rebuilding. And so this is the first phase of the rebuild projects that we're going to talk about today. The new pavement, as you can see, it's basically replicating the existing T-hanger pavement. If you don't know what a T-hanger is, it's the most efficient use of space. It basically just has enough room for the wingspan of the airplane and the fuselage and tail of the aircraft. It's not a typical box hangar, which has a lot of what we call wasted space. Again, box hangars have their role. T-hangers have their role. T-hangers are great for storing aircraft in a very small amount of space. The only downside to T-hangers is you require pavement on 2 sides. And so this project here, in combination with ODO 3, is to essentially move the T-hanger units that were damaged and destroyed by the tornado, move them and take advantage of the current T-hanger, new T-hanger taxi lane that's been constructed several years ago, build a similar, which the new one was only accommodating 10, so we want to try and get as close to the 18 number as possible, which was the amount of T-hangers that were damaged by the tornado. So we're going to replace that with a $1.75 million taxi lane. We're going to construct that new, basically replica what you have, along with a $2.2 million to reconstruct 20 units of T-hangers. Again, this is going to be replacing the 18, plus you get a bonus 2 on top of that. And so the T-hanger taxi lane is going to be funded in part with some of your federal funds, your non-primary entitlement funds, which is the typical $150,000 you get a year, plus your remaining AIG or BIL funds, which you've gotten under the bipartisan infrastructure law, along with some of our state funds that we are considering pro-growth funds to support the development of this project. And again, looking at about a 5% match on the city's part for $87,000. The two 10-unit T-hangars, that funding gets a little more complicated. This is a form that you see in front of you that we were required to submit to the FAA. It probably doesn't do a good enough job from a cash flow perspective, which we can get into in the future. I know the city manager and Bonnie and others have tried to figure out, okay, where's all this money coming from on the match column, which is obviously the city's column. It can come from any source of money that you guys have. It can come from airport monies, general revenue monies, FEMA monies, and as the example of some of the monies you might receive under FEMA for some of the tornado damage facilities, insurance money for the same purposes. And so if you see there, we are considering the $1.32 million for those new 20 T-hangars as part of the local match. That could come from FEMA, that could come from insurance, that's our hopeful. But then also we, the state, are willing to bring our 40%. Our hangar program is typically a 40-60 program, 40% from the state, 60% locally. You can use, obviously not in this case because you're using your federal money on the taxi lane piece, but if you weren't using your federal money on the taxi lane piece, you could use your federal money, your FAA money that being, on up to 55%. So it could look like a 40% state, 55% FAA, 5% local. We have done several of those projects across the state in the last 3 years, thanks to the legislature's investment in pro-growth technologies. But here, the project is going to be funded mostly with the 40% coming from the state, the 60% coming from the local, and we're going to let you guys decide how that's going to look from a FEMA, insurance, other sources of money proposition. I know we've been having conversations with the FEMA and trying to move that project forward to get them to understand this is the importance, this is why it's having to be relocated. And the chief reason for why it's being relocated is the current T-hangars that were damaged and the pavement around those T-hangars did not meet FAA standards. There wasn't enough pavement width between the hangar door and where the taxi lane would be, where that aircraft, once it pulls out of the hangar, where it's going to taxi around to get to the end of the runway. And obviously you're not being punished for that when those hangars were there. FAA doesn't see that as something, it's not an immediate safety critical thing to meet. But in the case of if those T-hangars were going away for whatever reason, being rebuilt because they're at the end of their life, or in the case of Shawnee, being destroyed by a tornado, you want to put those back in a normal course of business. And then ODO number 4, which is the last project in 2025, is a $2.73 million project, and that's going to be funded for the southeast taxi lane. So if you remember the presentation from last commission meeting, I'm sure you were presented about how we're going to take advantage of that 30 to 40 acres in the southeast portion of the airport and how we can make that a pro-growth, an environment where more aviation businesses, where you can get more based aircraft from the growth of the Oklahoma City metro area. You guys have a 6,000-foot runway. You have an ILS system. You have a lot of great amenities, and obviously some of those were taken away thanks to the tornado. But you had a lot of great amenities out here at the airport that a lot of aviation businesses are interested in. And so we want to be able to do this best as we can as a state to encourage growth and development opportunities for the Shawnee Airport. So that project, again, that's using our pro-growth funds, 95-5 proposition, $2.7 million. And as you can see there, that red, that more southern red taxi lane, that's the new taxi lane. Just, again, this is one of the proposals. It will be split up into a couple of different bid phases. We'll have a base bid plus an alternate depending on where the prices come in. I don't know what the budget numbers we have available, what match money you have available. So that's 2025. You'll note on these 3 other sheets that I presented to you, the 3 smaller sheets, these are the diagrams associated with the scopes of work that will be presented to you at a potential future discussion. So I know we've had some discussions internally about developing the first round of design fees. And so these pictures you see are the scopes of work associated with those design fees, and gives you a little more detail than the bigger map does of what we're going to be looking for those first 3 elements. And those are the elements that you're seeing here in the 2025 slate of projects. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information there that as we come back to you in a future meeting, we'll likely have the approval of the CIP as well as some elements to move forward. Now, the one thing before we go on to a future year, I know we've had some discussions about cash flow and cash flow considerations given the challenges at the airport, the city, the tornado, and damage recovery efforts. Right now, the council has merely just asked us to be your agent for planning and developing this 5-year, turned into 6-year CIP. We do, on occasion, if requested, can act as simply as a bigger agent. Essentially, this is agent light right now is what we're doing. You could ask for agent heavy. And what that is essentially we become your contracting vehicle. We can cash flow the projects on your behalf. Again, something for your alls to consider as you're going through this CIP. I know that's a concern with many of our cities across the state of Oklahoma is the cash flow situation that you guys are in. And so at the end of the day, if you guys feel that maybe just one project, or maybe it's all the projects, or it's half the projects, that the cash flow is something to consider, we can enter into that proposition at a future time. But no, that is a opportunity on the table as we go through all of these projects. In 2026, again, we have some additional design and construct. We also have some just strictly design projects. And the first one you see on there is construction of the terminal, which is a design and construct. I know in conversations in the last few weeks, we've had concerns about inflation. Inflation's a big concern of mine as well. The longer we delay projects, the more the inflation is going to take away the dollar value that we have, and we're not tying our dollars to the stock market, so inflation's winning in that battle. And so one of the considerations here of doing design and construct in the terminal in the same year is it helps potentially combat some of that inflation. Instead of waiting until year 3 to do construction of the terminal in the CIP, if we can move that to year 2, that might help us combat some of those inflationary considerations over that particular time period. Now again, what you're seeing here in this proposed CIP is a relocation of the terminal building as we, the state, have proposed. Again, up to you all as a city to decide what you like and what you don't like from my proposal. This is moving the terminal building back east a little bit, and what that movement back east a little bit allows, it allows for more transient parking apron space. So the apron can really go 3 different directions. Prior to the tornado, it was limited in 2 directions. It could go north, it can go south. Those were our 2 expansion areas. Now that the tornado has given us a little bit of a quote-unquote green slate to work from, we could potentially add a 3rd element to expand the apron, and that would be back east. And so just know that's a consideration. That's something that we are recommending. The downside to that is, and the downside to moving the T-hangers is sometimes you're obviously limited with FEMA funds for what you can and can't do. It's called an alternate project. And so with an alternate project, you don't get the wiggle room that if you say the terminal building going back in the exact same spot was expected to be $4 million, and then it turns out the bids were 5, FEMA would cover the 5 in the existing spot. If you move it, they don't cover the 5. And so what we, the state, are stepping in to say is like, we have $1 million programmed in our 5-year airport construction program, the state's CIP, essentially. We call it different things. Don't ask aviators why we have different acronyms for different things when they're basically the same thing. But at the end of the day, we do. So our ACP has $1 million for your terminal in it right there today. That gives you some cushion for moving that terminal back east. Gives you a little bit of flexibility to say if we did run up on some of those alternate cost issues that you're essentially capped out at on the terminal building project, we have the $1 million of flexibility. So what this, again, what we're proposing in the CIP and talking about today is moving that back to allow us to have a little more apron space to work with. As Bonnie will say, you know, one of the proposals had the apron expansion going north and potentially doing away with hangar, Bonnie, which hangar is it that's just? 14. Well, obviously, hangar 14 is still standing. It's providing revenue streams to the city. We don't want to take away a revenue stream from the city if we don't have to do so. And so moving it back east and then obviously eventually moving the expansion south gives you guys the most flexibility as well as the most amount of space. This is where the terminal building is going to go for the next half century. Knock on wood, we don't have another tornado issue that happened like it did last year. So $3.8 million is essentially what we're expecting the rebuild to cost of the current terminal building. I know there would be some design changes when we get into that maybe eliminating a 2nd floor or some of those other items to discuss. Those are all cost considerations that we can look at as we get into the design of that particular project. The next 3 items, ODO 6, 7, and 8, are all design projects for moving, either supporting the move of the terminal building east or the continued development of the southeast area. And so ODO 6 is a parking lot design. Obviously, if we're going to move the terminal building back to the east, we're gonna have to add some more parking, because the terminal building is gonna go on top of where your current parking lot sits today. And you're gonna lose a lot of those spaces. And so, parking lot's a 95.5 grant proposition from the state, 5% match. And so that's what you see there is the design element for that parking lot. Now, you might say, well, why in the world would we do the design construct for the terminal first and then the parking lot second? Well, the terminal design is gonna be a 6 to 9 month process. The terminal construction is gonna be a 12-month process. The design for a parking lot is gonna be pretty quick, and the build for a parking lot is gonna be pretty quick. Plus, you don't wanna go build your parking lot first, because then your contractors are gonna use that parking lot as a station, as a offloading and loading zone. It's going to inadvertently harm your parking lot, having that contractor out there working on it every single day as they're trying to build up that terminal building. And the same thing that you'll see, and you won't see it here in the CIP, but one of the same principles we'll deal with on the Southeast Development Area is the next two items, ODO 7 and 8, are $400,000 for the southeast hangar and apron, as well as the road and utilities. And so we would bid that out where we're building the apron and hangar first, so that again, you don't have a contractor running their heavy equipment or having 18-wheelers deliver stuff to the site down a newly constructed asphalt or concrete road that isn't designed to handle that. And so at the end of the day, that's one of the things we'll take into consideration, something we'll take into consideration in the parking lot, something we will take into consideration on the southeast road and utilities. So with this hangar and what these essentially taxi lane area and utilities are going to do, this is the first kind of groundbreaking of the new southeast development area. What that hangar size can be, kind of up to you guys. The legislature provided $6.5 million of what we would call 100% money to the city of Shawnee for the airport for this southeast development area. And obviously, given the grant matches that we have at the state, with most of our traditional funding, taxi lanes, utilities, roadways, aprons being 95.5 and being our hangar is 40/60, we decided to put most of the 100% money on the potential hangar build, and then the rest of that money would be used, obviously, to buy down the match. And then whatever is left over in terms of a cost element would be a 5% match on the city. And so that's why you see the next few projects have a low city matching requirements, because we're taking advantage of that 100% money, and then also making sure that we're prioritizing any of the most minimal amount of match possible to get you guys your best ROI as a local match dollar. And so you'll see there in 2027, we're going to construct the parking lot for the terminal, the hangar phase 1, the hangar apron phase 1, and then the construct southeast road and utilities. Right now we have about $827,000 for the terminal parking lot in 2027. We have just shy of $5.75 million for the hangar phase 1, which is the first hangar. Again, that number can go up and down depending on what size hangar it is that you guys want to build. This was about, I think, a 20 to 25,000 square foot hangar. You guys want to build a 15,000 square foot hangar. Obviously, that number comes down. Some of that money that would be saved gets applied to some of the other projects. That then saves you all local match on the remaining of the southeast development area. Maybe you want to build 2 hangars down there of smaller size. We can talk about that. Anyway, this is just one potential option for moving forward. The southeast hangar apron phase 1, about just shy of $1.25 million. And again, as you can see there, we're exhausting the 100% money, and then the remaining amount of that balance would be 95.5. Local match is about $41,000. The southeast road and utilities, about $1.65 million. Again, that'll be the standard 95.5 grant. So, busy first 3 years that you're seeing for the airport. You can see here on this map the various projects laid out in the ODOs and the labels. Again, this is just one potential option for you guys to consider. A lot of these things are movable. Probably couldn't go move the terminal building down to the southeast development area. Probably couldn't move the big hangar up to the north, but some of these options and where the taxi lanes, where the utilities, where the roadways are laid out are definitely options. In 2028, we have a rollover of funds. We're going to give you guys a break year there. Everybody can catch their breath for a moment. But we are going to recommend that you all request what we call congressionally designated spending. So that is where Congress, either a U.S. Senator or your congressman, can direct funding for a specific project at a given time during an appropriation cycle. We as the state, put forward discretionary projects all across the state of Oklahoma every single year. But we compete those projects on a regional and a national basis. And so our projects have to have a high dollar ranking value. So it starts from the runway center line and works its way out. Safety obviously is our utmost priority. So runway rehabilitations, safety area improvements, then taxiways, then aprons. The further from the runway you go, and the less of a safety case that project has, the lower the priority ranking. So we have to put, when we're doing it from a staff level, we have to put up very, very high ranking priority projects. Runway extensions, runway strengthenings, apron reconstructions, those aren't high priority projects. We struggle to get those done from a staff level. We do, on occasion, get those done. However, Congress can step in and say, you know what, I believe this is a great priority for my local district, and we believe we want this project to move forward. And so that's what you see there is the first project, about $12 million when you combine design and construct, excuse me, for strengthening the runways and the taxiways. You have a 6,000 foot runway. Right now you're about 50,000 pound aircraft is kind of your max capacity. The challenge with that is that limits the amount of aircraft that can land on 6,000 foot runway. If you had a 4,500 foot runway or a 5,000 foot runway, your pavement strength would be fine. Maybe bump it up just a little bit. But for a 6,000 foot runway, a lot of business jets can land on a 6,000 foot runway, but can't land there because you have your 50,000 pound weight bearing limit. And so if we strengthen that up, and this is not unique to Shawnee, this is something that we see across the state. We have a lot of 6,000, 7,000, 7,500 foot runways across the state that have lower strength for whatever reason. When they were built back in the day, chances are they didn't have the best of base material. And so we want, as part of our system plan, we have recommended that a lot of these airports in the greater than 5,000 foot range look at strengthening at some point in time to ensure their full development capability, their full fleet mix that could land at that particular airport. And so that's why we're recommending that in 2029 and 2030. I would still recommend that you work with your local congressperson and get them engaged on this as soon as you can. And who knows, maybe you'll get that particular project sooner than 2029 or 2030. And then last but not least, and we didn't want to make this a 7-year CIP, so we ended at year 6, but you'll see there a reconstruct of the terminal apron, and that's a design project. That means construction is going to follow on with that in 2032 once we get to that next year at this particular point in time. But that's one of the projects that we've struggled with. We have had the apron rehabilitation, the apron reconstruction project on our ACP for many, many years. But in our conversations with the FAA, time and time again, we hear about general aviation airports not competing for apron discretionary dollars. We may have to make another congressionally designated spending request for the apron project when we get to that particular point in time. We may have to. But I think by that point in time, we'll be able to get over the hump to justify to FAA why we have to spend those discretionary dollars on an apron. That's why we did your concrete hard stand out there. We had probably about 24 asphalt aprons in various rates of deterioration across the state of Oklahoma. We put these concrete hard stands at about 12.5 of them as kind of a Band-Aid to kick the can down the road until we could have the hard conversation with how do we reconstruct all these asphalt aprons if they're not going to compete for discretionary dollars across the state of Oklahoma. And so that, at the end of the day, is the CIP presentation. If you couldn't tell my passion about this subject, I could spend probably the next 3 hours talking about it, but I know we all have jobs and families we'd like to get back to. So I will stop talking and stand for any questions that you all may have.
I don't have any questions. I'm blown away by the possibilities, and so I appreciate, we asked this a month ago, and here it is, like laid out in so many terms, and you explained it very well. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for not taking 3 hours to describe it. I appreciate that personally. But you did a great job, Chris, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Grayson, appreciate it very much. And I just want to say that we have been working on this for quite some time, and Grayson has been really, really, really good to work with us. We've had a lot of long conversations, and I think our airport has tremendous potential moving forward. I think it's one of our really bright points in our town, and I appreciate you coming up with this. Like Lauren said, in an expedited fashion, and we'll keep after it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Grayson. Now on to item number 3. Consideration of a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a grant offer from the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, for the Reconstruct T-Hangar Taxi Lane project for the Shawnee Regional Airport, deferred from October 21st, 2024, Shawnee Airport Authority meeting. And we'll call on Bonnie for staff report.
I believe that this is a bit of a housekeeping issue at this point. We did give a report on this earlier, and were asked by Commissioner Matthews to defer to this meeting based on the work that was going on with Grayson's team. And so now I think as we're considering a new CIP, would overwrite this item. I guess the recommendation at this stage would just be to say, thank you for your consideration, but it is no longer of relevance.
All right. Any questions for Bonnie?
And then I would defer to Joe to say what action does the authority have to take to do this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the options are to approve it, to take no action, or to reject the resolution. I would suggest, just for cleanliness at this point, that we go ahead, if the commission sees fit, to make a motion to reject the resolution so that we can bring closure to that item.
I make a motion to reject item number 3.
I'll second.
Okay.
Sorry, just give me a second.
You're fine.
My computer died over here, so I'm having to start over.
Do I have to back up? There it is. So a yes is to reject. Okay, motion carries 6-0. And any new business? Ms.
No new
Manager?
business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Adjourned by the power of the chair. And will we go to municipal authority? So I got it back out here. I got that saved. I'm so proud of myself. Number 1, consider approval of consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Lauren and Chris. And then we'll call for the vote. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 2, any new business, the city manager?
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll call for adjournment there. And we'll back up. Find it. Yeah, there. Joint meeting. So, all logged in? We'll reconvene the city commission meeting by the power of the chair. Item number 17, consider an executive session in accordance with 25 OS 307B4 to discuss confidential communications between a public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action if the public body, with the advice of its attorney, determines that disclosure will seriously impair the ability of the public body to process the claim or conduct a pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest, specifically regarding PFAS settlement. Any discussion? Okay, can we get a motion to?
So moved.
Motion to go to executive session.
Mark and Chris? We'll vote on this.
Oh. So I have to read it back, sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Is there an option up in the?
E-vote?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Got it.
Motion carries 6-0, so we will recess and go into executive session. So we can reconvene the city commission meeting by the power of the chair. Move on to item number 18. Consider matters discussed in executive session in accordance with 25 OS 307B4 to discuss confidential communications between a public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action if the public body, with the advice of its attorney, determines that disclosure will seriously impair the ability of the public body to process the claim or conduct a pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest, specifically regarding PFAS settlement.
I would like to see if we could get an administrative report for the next commission meeting on the 16th to share with the city. Okay. With that being said, I'd like to move to opt into the PFAS MDL settlement upon advice of counsel.
Second?
So we make a motion?
Yep. Or, that was the motion.
That was the motion.
Okay.
Second,
Okay.
right? Okay.
That's what I heard.
Yep,
Okay.
that's what I heard.
So we'll call for the vote.
Can I clarify the motion was to opt into the PFAS
MDL settlement?
MDL settlement upon advice of counsel?
Correct.
Okay.
Motion carries 6-0. And with that, we will adjourn.
So we still have like 4 or 5 hours, right?
Yeah. Is there part of the